What secrets could Princess Diana's driver have kept hidden for all these years? Imagine being one of the last people to see her alive and carrying the weight of those memories for over 2 decades. For Colin Tebbutt, Princess Diana's former driver and a trusted member of her security team, this haunting reality has been a painful burden. On the tragic night of August 31st, 1997, the world was shaken by the news of Princess Diana's fatal car crash in Paris. But for those closest to her, especially Colin, the grief was even more profound. Now, after years of silence, he is finally revealing the shocking truths he's held onto. Stay with us as we uncover the secrets of that fateful night through the eyes of someone who was there. Number 1. Initial reaction to the crash. When Colin Tebbutt received the heartbreaking news that Princess Diana had been in a devastating car crash in Paris, he was overwhelmed with shock and disbelief. As her former driver and a trusted member of her staff, he immediately felt a deep sense of sorrow and responsibility. He couldn't help but wonder if the outcome might have been different if he had been the one driving that night. In his mind, questions swirled. Could his presence behind the wheel have saved her life? Colin had developed a close working relationship with Princess Diana over the years, and her safety was always his top priority. He was highly trained in defensive driving and well aware of the security risks that came with transporting a member of the royal family. The fact that she had been in the care of another driver, Henri Paul, who was later found to have been driving under the influence, haunted him. As Colin rushed to the Pitié-Salpêtrière hospital in Paris, his mind was flooded with agonizing thoughts. He replayed countless scenarios in his head, all filled with the same haunting question. Had he failed in his duty to protect her? This feeling of regret and responsibility would continue to weigh heavily on him for many years to come. Number 2. Arrival at the hospital. The scene that greeted Colin Tebbutt when he arrived at the Pitié-Salpêtrière hospital was one of chaos and heartbreak. The air was heavy with tension, and the hallways were crowded with medical staff, security, and members of Princess Diana's team, all consumed by shock and grief. As Tebbutt made his way through the sea of people, he was struck by the eerie quietness that hung in the air, broken only by the occasional sob or whispered words of disbelief. It was as if the world itself was struggling to process the unimaginable loss of Princess Diana. Colin's heart raced as he neared the room where Diana's body lay. He had faced many difficult moments throughout his career, but nothing could prepare him for what he was about to see. The vibrant, radiant woman he had worked so closely with was now gone. He steeled himself, knowing that the sight of her lifeless form would forever be etched in his memory. Tebbutt had seen tragedy before, but this was different. The weight of the moment, the overwhelming sadness in the air, and the magnitude of the loss felt unbearable. The world had lost a beloved princess, and for Colin, it was a deeply personal and devastating moment he would never forget. Number 3. Heat in the hospital room. As Colin Tebbutt stepped into the dimly lit hospital room, the first thing he noticed was the stifling heat. The air felt thick, and beads of sweat instantly formed on his forehead. It was as though the weight of the tragedy had taken physical form, pressing down on everyone in the room. The heat was unbearable, making it even harder to process the heartbreaking scene in front of him. In a desperate attempt to make the room more comfortable, Colin quickly arranged for fans to be brought in. As the cool air began to circulate, something unexpected happened. Princess Diana's eyelashes and hair gently moved in the breeze. For a brief, heart-wrenching moment, Colin felt a flicker of hope. Could she somehow still be alive? His mind raced, daring to believe that maybe, just maybe, there had been a mistake. But the harsh reality soon returned. Princess Diana was gone, and no amount of wishful thinking could change that. The movement he had seen was nothing more than a cruel trick of the senses, a reminder of the vibrant life that had been so tragically cut short. Overcome with grief, Colin felt his legs weaken beneath him, the weight of the loss pressing down on his heart. Number 4. Paparazzi Intrusion. Amidst the overwhelming grief and chaos at the hospital, Colin Tebbutt faced an entirely different battle, the relentless intrusion of the paparazzi. These vultures of the media, always hungry for their next sensational story, had swarmed the hospital, eager to capture every heartbreaking moment. Cameras were poised, and the air outside was filled with the frantic clicking of shutters. For Tebbutt, this was an infuriating violation. His protective instincts took over as he realized he had to shield Princess Diana from the prying eyes of the paparazzi, even in her final moments. Determined to maintain what little dignity remained, he hurriedly covered the windows with hospital blankets, creating a makeshift barrier to block the cameras. As he worked, the shouts and flashes from outside served as a sickening reminder of the paparazzi's unquenchable thirst for tragedy. The act of covering the windows wasn't just about keeping the paparazzi out, it was a symbolic gesture. It was one final stand against the relentless intrusion that had plagued Princess Diana throughout her life. For Tebbutt, this was a way to protect her privacy, something that had been stolen from her so often by the very same photographers who had now gathered outside her hospital room. Number 5. Professionalism and emotion. Despite the overwhelming emotions that threatened to consume him, Colin Tebbutt knew he had to remain professional in the face of unimaginable grief. As a trusted member of Princess Diana's inner circle, he understood that he owed it to her memory to ensure every detail was handled with care and respect. Though his heart was heavy, he pushed through the pain, focusing on the tasks at hand. One of those tasks was arranging for a French undertaker to prepare Princess Diana's body for her family's arrival. Tebbutt watched in silence as the undertaker worked delicately, restoring the beauty that had been so cruelly marred by the tragedy. It was a painstaking process, but one that was done with the utmost reverence. As the undertaker stepped back, revealing Princess Diana's serene and peaceful appearance once again, Tebbutt felt a bittersweet pang of recognition. This was the woman he had known, whose warmth and kindness had touched so many lives. Yet now, she lay still, lost to the world. It was a moment that would be etched into his memory forever, a haunting reminder of how fragile life is and how lasting Diana's legacy would be. The weight of the moment was immense, but Tebbutt knew he had fulfilled his final duty to her. Number 6. Public reaction. As Colin Tebbutt accompanied Princess Diana's body on its final journey from the hospital to the military airfield, he witnessed the profound impact she had left on people across nations. In Paris, crowds had gathered along the streets, their faces filled with sorrow. In a touching moment, many began to applaud, a gesture of respect and gratitude for the woman who had touched millions of lives with her compassion and humanitarian efforts. It was a powerful display of how deeply Princess Diana was admired, her influence crossing borders and cultures. When the plane carrying her body touched down in London, the atmosphere was entirely different. The silence was almost unbearable, as the vibrant city seemed frozen in grief. Thousands of mourners lined the streets, united in their disbelief and sorrow. The shock of losing their beloved princess had cast a shadow over the entire country. As Tebbutt observed the scene, he found himself overwhelmed with emotion. The sight of the British public, standing together in mourning, was a testament to the enduring love and admiration they had for Diana. It was a stark reminder of the profound loss her death had left behind, not just for her family and close friends, but for the millions of people who had admired her from afar. Number 7. Final acts of care. In the final moments before Princess Diana's family arrived to say their last goodbyes, Colin Tebbutt and her trusted butler, Paul Burrell, felt the need to perform one final act of care for the woman they had served with unwavering loyalty. With trembling hands, Burrell gently arranged Princess Diana's hair, carefully placing each strand with the same respect and tenderness he had shown her during her life. It was a small gesture, but one filled with deep meaning, a final tribute to restore her regal beauty and honor her memory. At the same time, Tebbutt placed a delicate rosary beside her, a symbol of the faith that had offered her comfort and guidance throughout her life. This was a gesture particularly poignant, given her close friendship with Mother Teresa, who passed away just days later. As he stepped back, a wave of sadness washed over him, mixed with a glimmer of hope. Tebbutt could only wish that wherever Diana's soul had gone, she had finally found the peace and solace that had so often escaped her during her time on Earth. It was a moment of profound grief, but also a final act of love and care for a princess who had touched so many lives. Number 8. Personal guilt. In the years following Princess Diana's tragic death, Colin Tebbutt found himself haunted by a deep sense of guilt and responsibility. No matter how much reassurance he received from those around him, he couldn't escape the nagging feeling that he had failed in his duty to protect her. The what-ifs played on a loop in his mind, tormenting him with endless scenarios where his presence that night could have changed the outcome. What if he had been the one behind the wheel? What if his extensive training in defensive driving could have given him the edge needed to escape the relentless paparazzi? Tebbutt knew, deep down, that thinking about these hypothetical situations wouldn't bring peace. Yet, the weight of his self-imposed burden was inescapable. He couldn't help but feel that he had let down the woman who had trusted him, someone whose warmth and kindness had left a lasting impact on his life. While he understood logically that the tragedy was beyond his control, the emotional toll of his personal guilt lingered. Tebbutt carried that burden for years, a reminder of how much Princess Diana had meant to him and the world. Number 9. Working relationship. Despite the tragedy that would forever connect them, Colin Tebbutt's memories of working with Princess Diana were filled with warmth and respect. From the moment he became her driver, he was struck by her down-to-earth nature and genuine kindness, traits that stood in stark contrast to the often formal world of the royal family. Tebbutt quickly realized that Diana had a sharp wit and an infectious sense of humor, which helped break the ice and forge a bond beyond the typical employer-employee relationship. Princess Diana had a unique ability to make those around her feel valued and appreciated, and Tebbutt was no exception. She treated him with kindness, which made his role feel even more special. However, Tebbutt was also keenly aware of the boundaries that came with his position. As much as he admired Diana on a personal level, he understood the gravity of his responsibility to safeguard the life of one of the world's most beloved figures. Tebbutt took great pride in his work, knowing that his professionalism and dedication were vital to Diana's safety. It was this delicate balance of familiarity and reverence that defined their working relationship, a dynamic that Tebbutt cherished deeply in the years following her untimely passing. Number 10. Nickname. In a touching reflection of their close bond, Princess Diana affectionately gave Colin Tebbutt the nickname The Boss. It was a playful title that perfectly captured her warm sense of humor, but to Tebbutt, it carried a much deeper meaning. The nickname was more than just a joke. It was a subtle acknowledgement of the trust and respect she had for him. It reflected the important role he played in ensuring her safety and security, a recognition of his expertise in looking after one of the most famous women in the world. At the same time, it highlighted the camaraderie and ease that had grown between them. Despite the formalities and protocols that governed their relationship, there was a genuine connection between Tebbutt and Diana, built on mutual respect and admiration. The nickname was a reminder that, beyond his duties, he was someone Diana truly valued. After her tragic passing, Tebbutt clung to the memory of that affectionate nickname. It became a cherished reminder of the special bond they had shared and the lasting impact she had on his life. The Boss wasn't just a title, it was a symbol of their relationship, a bond that Tebbutt would carry with him long after Diana was gone. Number 11. Conspiracy theories. In the wake of Princess Diana's tragic death, countless conspiracy theories began to surface, each more far-fetched than the last. From claims of orchestrated assassinations to elaborate government cover-ups, people were desperate to find a hidden truth behind her untimely passing. But for Colin Tebbutt, who had been closely involved in the events of that night, these theories held no weight. He had seen the reality of the situation unfold and knew the truth was far simpler. Tebbutt had witnessed the chaos and confusion immediately following the crash. He had seen the frantic efforts of the medical team and the raw, unfiltered emotions of those closest to Diana. There was no space for conspiracy or manipulation, only the heartbreaking reality of a devastating accident. For Tebbutt, the idea that Diana's death could have been part of some elaborate plot was not just implausible, but offensive to her memory. He firmly believed that the tragic accident was the result of an unfortunate combination of circumstances. Henri Paul's intoxication, the high speed, and the relentless pursuit by the paparazzi were key factors. While Tebbutt understood people's need to make sense of such a profound loss, he remained convinced that the truth was simpler and more painful than any conspiracy theory. For him, it was a senseless tragedy, nothing more. Number 12. Security concerns. As Colin Tebbutt navigated the chaos of that tragic night, one of his biggest concerns was the lack of privacy and security around Princess Diana in her final moments. Despite being a beloved public figure, it was clear to Tebbutt that her dignity needed to be protected, especially from the relentless paparazzi. The sight of these so-called journalists swarming the hospital, cameras ready to capture every heartbreaking detail, filled Tebbutt with disgust and anger. He had seen firsthand how the paparazzi's insatiable thirst for sensationalism often trampled over basic human decency. This deep sense of outrage fueled his determination to create a barrier around Diana's hospital room. Using hospital blankets to cover the windows, he worked to shield her from the prying eyes of photographers who had so often invaded her privacy and life. It was a small act, but one that held great meaning, a final stand to protect her dignity. Yet, even as he took these steps, Tebbutt couldn't shake his frustration and disappointment at the lack of security. He was frustrated by the failures leading up to the crash, including the lack of proper security arrangements that could have potentially prevented it. The fact that such intrusions were even possible felt like a failure to him. In his eyes, it was a betrayal of the trust placed in those responsible for safeguarding Princess Diana's well-being. And there you have it, 12 deeply personal secrets that Colin Tebbutt, Princess Diana's trusted driver, held onto for years. These revelations provide a rare glimpse into the tragic events and the intense emotions behind them. If you found this insight into Diana's final moments compelling, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the Royal Corner for more untold stories and royal secrets. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and stay tuned for our next video.